Hey, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Tracy and I am a girl with plans. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my April and May reading recap. So I've already done like a initial flip through of this book. This is my reading journal, which I created using the Happy Planner. I have started creating memory keeping books, travel books using like bullet journaling, but I think I'm going to stick to the Happy Planner for my reading journaling because I like the ability to switch things around. And when it comes to this journal, I've been switching a lot of things around. Let me go ahead and take you on a quick recap. Pretty much have to flip through the whole thing to just show you my April and May reading recaps anyway. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started. So my books to read, I've read, I'm glad, well, I didn't read, but actually both of the ones that I finished on here, I'm Glad My Mom Died and Friends, Lovers, and The Big Terrible Things, I did that via audiobooks. Everything else are kind of still on my need to read list, and I just got From Blood and Ash from my library, so I'll be able to check that off soon. I did not add anything to my did not finish list. And now we'll get into 2023. So my goal was to read 12 books the entire year, and I've already read 20. So yes, I have definitely surpassed that. And when I created this chart, I didn't think that was going to be possible. So I may have to add something else, add a supplemental page to it, and maybe have to do that for my shelfie too. Now what I'm doing for my shelfie is I am color coding by month. And I kind of want to keep a lot of the series together. That's why there's blank books next to it. So like the ACOTAR series, there's 3 more books that I have that I need to read. I don't have them. I need to get them from the library that I need to read. So then I'll color those in, and I'm color coding it by month. So I think that would be kind of cute because for the most part, a lot of it's still going to be like right here, all greens, but it'll kind of add some little bit of variety to some of the shelves. And then for June, I've already selected a purple highlighter, and I'm just using mild liners to do this. And again, as I explained during my setup video, I created all of this myself in Microsoft Word. And then I added some stickers, and this was an image I had purchased off of Adobe and inserted it. So yeah. Okay, so here is my star ratings. So this is actually the only place I put my star ratings. And I will say I created this little cheat sheet so that way I remember, and I'll go over it because mine is definitely, I think, these are personal, so they vary from whoever's rating it. But my 5 stars, which are very hard to come by, is basically I couldn't put the book down, and the key is I would reread it. I am not someone who likes to reread books. Like once I've read it, move on to the next. But a 5-star, I would definitely reread it. 4 stars, a page turner. Loved it. Not as likely to reread. That's not out of the question, but it's like, okay, I've read it. It was great, whatever. And then I'm connected to the characters and the storyline. Of course, everything here could be applied to the 5-star too. 3-star, just okay. I wanted to finish the book, but I could care less about how quickly I finished it, which means there might be a greater span in where I started reading another book and then I eventually finished that book. 2, oh, and then there was a moderate connection to the character. So there might be one character I felt connected to, but most of them I could care less about. 3 stars, it was a struggle to complete the book. I wanted to stop reading it, but at the same time, I kind of want to see what happened in the end, if that makes sense. And there was pretty much no connection to any of the characters, to the story, to the plot, or anything. And then a 1-star, you're probably not going to see any 1-stars on this shelf because it's basically the books I did not finish. And it's probably not, and the reason why I said it is because I probably won't give a 1-star because I'm just not going to finish it. I am someone, if I absolutely do not like the book, and at the halfway point, I still do not like the book, I'm not going to finish it. So obviously they're not going to be here because I'm not going to finish a 1-star. Who knows, maybe one day. And then I'll have to edit that. So most of these were read in April and May. So these are the only 2 books I read prior to that, which was James Patterson's Crazy House and The Fixer, which are both kind of in that young adult type category. In April, I think one of the books I finished in May, but I completed all of the books that are available in the Zodiac Academy series. I believe that series is exclusive to Kindle Unlimited. I'm not 100% sure. I'll kind of go over my thoughts on those books as well. Those books started out like 4, maybe even teetering on the 4.5 star. But then there were some issues that I kind of just hung into the 4 star. But then they kind of went downhill. And let's see. The last one I gave 2.5. Probably should have given it 3. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. We have Daisy Jones and the Six, which I gave 3 stars. I did that one on audio. I'm glad my mom died. I did that one on audio. I gave it 4. A Court of Thorns and Roses, I gave 4.5 stars. I did that by audiobook. And I'm curious, to any of those who have read that book, I mean, do you think it's probably, I'm thinking it probably would have been better if I would have actually read it. It probably would have been a 5-star read, but listening to it on audio, I kind of found there were times that I was kind of drifting into something else. Like if I was multitasking, I would start focusing on the other task. And I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It was a very long audiobook. But I did give the audio version of it 4.5 stars because I love the story. The Inheritance Games, I did finish that. I need to print the last book cover, but all of those were pretty much 4 stars. They're not great books, but they definitely kept me engaged, and they were super quick reads, which is one of the reasons why they're 4 stars. Finley Donovan is killing it. Love that one. I rated that like 4.25 stars. And it might have been rated high because I read it like in the middle of Zodiac Academy when I needed a break. Matthew Perry's Friends, Lovers, and the Great Big Terrible Things, I gave 3 stars. That might be a little low. I did struggle to finish that one. It is a very compelling, I listened to that on audiobook, and it was very compelling. It was very like, it tugged at your heartstrings. But then there was some like repetitiveness and stuff. I kind of just wanted to fast forward. I didn't, but I wanted to. So that's the reason why I was kind of hanging on that 3 stars. And then The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. We will get into those, but those are my 5 stars. I did not think, well, actually, this last one I gave like 4.5 just because I felt like The Serpent and the Wings of Night was so good. And this one was, I want to say just as good. I think it was, but I was like, if I had to pull ahead, I think I would have to give it to the first book, but they were both pretty much 5 stars. And then here is my monthly like reading overall stats. And the one thing I do here is I break up the actual pages that I've read, whether it be a physical book and a e-reader. I separate it from my actual audiobooks. I know some people will see how long the book is and count those as pages. I don't want to do that just because I kind of treat them both differently. Like when I'm listening to an audiobook, I am kind of multitasking. Whereas when I'm reading, I am specifically reading. So I do carry more weight to the actual pages I read versus the audio. And that's why I didn't want to count those as pages. So in April, I read 9 books and I read a total of 4,268 electronic pages. And I would say the bulk of those pages came from Zodiac Academy. Those are long books. And then for audio, 15 hours and 6 minutes. In May, I also did 9 books, 3,891 pages. Again, less Zodiac Academy books, but that their latest book, book 8, is like over 1,000 pages. So that was the bulk of that. And then audio is 24 hours and 58 minutes. And the bulk of that was the Agatar book, or Court of Thorns and Roses. Okay. Now, here is my calendar. This is a 2022 calendar, and I showed you guys this during my flip through. I'm just repurposing it, and it worked out great because I just do a Monday start date and don't even have to redo anything. So basically what I did here is, this was my first time using it, so I was figuring out how to do it. And being this is a Disney calendar from a Disney planner I pulled out, I just added some Disney stickers. So I write when I start the book and arrows. I've been reading every day, so I've just been writing the arrows and then when I finish the book. And I've been kind of color coding it so I can kind of see when I start and finish it. So this was the first one. And then here, like I had a goal of finish one book each week. And then I noted, I started an audio book on 418. We'll listen to it when I'm doing yard work. So that's kind of what I was doing. Like Daisy Jones and the Six, I only listened to when I was doing yard work. Yeah. And then I used the Currently page from that and I taped it to the back. And this is kind of my reading summary. I wrote down the books that I read. And then I put like I used a zig dot marker. I don't know if I have one nearby, to do the little bullet points. And then I wrote K or A, K for Kindle, A for audio. And then books in progress, I wrote right here. So it's the books that I started in April, but I'm probably going to finish in May. Here's my little tracker where I kind of use my dot pen on the days that I read. Here's my overall stats. So I did 7 Kindle and 2 audio. And then here are my overall stats. And my favorite was actually I'm Glad My Mom Died, which was audio. It probably should have been Zodiac Academy books 1 and 2. But I feel like when I wrote that down, I was so annoyed by some of the later books that I completely was like, ugh. So in all honesty, I probably need to write a note. I'm probably going to write a note there just to kind of note that, because I think I really did enjoy Zodiac Academy books 1 and 2, probably even 3. But then it just started going downhill, which completely tainted my view for my favorite book of the month. All right, I need to actually move this. All right, so then this is when I was like, oh, I'm going to use my headers from the Winnie the Pooh Happy Planner sticker book because they have all these days of the week. And I'll be able to finish out, I think, the year using these. And then I created my own stickers and cut them with the Cricut of started and finished. And I have different ones for audio. These little audio headphones indicate audio. Because I don't really read physical books, I completely read only on my Kindle. I'm just doing that. So I'm pretty much just distinguishing here between audio and actual reading. And then again, it's the same concept. This time I was kind of doing audio and books, like e-readers at the same time. So that's kind of what helped me get to the 9 books. But as you can see, some of these books took a little bit longer to read. And I did create a to be read list here and then checked off the ones I did. All right, and then here again are my stats. So I did 7 Kindle books and 2 audio books. And then here are all the books again. And then in progress, I just started reading from Blood and Ash. And my favorite book was The Serpent and the Wing of Night. All right, and then I did cut off the tabs for April and May because I just want to go ahead and switch to June. And my plan is, depending upon how thick this gets, I may keep this and put it in the back next year when I start my new one. So here is June all set up. I'm filming this on the 1st. So that's why it's not filled out yet, because I'm currently reading a book. And I might write, even though I started it, I might write when I started it here just so that I can, for memory purposes, and then do the arrows. For here, I have not done my to be read list, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, I have books on hold at the library, but some of them are like, I'm like 17th on the list. So I have no idea when I'm going to get it because I keep purchasing new books. All right. And I do need to tape this together, and then I'll work on this page over the course, I guess, of the month, because I don't fill it out to the end. So, all right. And then I have my trackers section. I'm not sure if I did not have this when I did my flip through, so I will go through this. So I did create a book bingo, and I created an A to Z reading challenge. And I will say I'm not using this to choose my books. I'm kind of just seeing how this goes to see next year when I, read for the whole year, means I really didn't start to April this year. I can probably be a little bit more diverse when I fill out my book bingo, but I am kind of impressed with how this is going. For my A to Z reading challenge, a lot of the books start with the same letters. Like F is like a really popular letter, so I've read like 4 books that I could have put there, but yes, I doubt if I'm going to fill this out. But again, I want to kind of see how far I go without trying. And then maybe next year, I'll kind of let this to guide me to choose certain books. All right. Then I do have my book series tracker. And I have only like 4 of them here now. So like I finished, well, I've done, oh, I haven't checked this off yet. Look at that, guys. I am not good. All right, so there's supposed to be 9 books in Zodiac Academy. I'm not sure when the 9th book is coming out, but I've read 8 of 9. I've read 1 in the Finley Donovan series, and I've read 1 in the Akatar series, and I've read all 3 of Inheritance Games. I wasn't sure whether or not to like how to count like A Serpent and the Wings of Nights books, because like it's a duology, but she's going to create a series with multiple duologies. So I don't know if I'm going to like maybe use the back here and do like a duology list, create a separate duology list, count it as part of a series. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. And then I have books read by genre, and I just like stamped here, and then I just did my different genres. I don't know why on fantasy, I started adding them down here instead of marking them off. So I'm just doing a tally system. So I've actually read 11 fantasy books. Again, that's the bulk of what I read. 1 young adult, 1 dystopia. Is that even how you say it? 4 mystery and suspense. 3 of those was Inheritance Games, 2 memoirs, and 1 historical fiction. And this is audio and everything. I'm not separating it by this. And I'm using the orange for 2023 because I may add 2024 to this. And then eventually I'll do my final stats. I got to figure out how to do that. I might end up doing a sticker with like a chart because it'll be easier for me to fit in than handwriting it. And then I can just write in the numbers. And that way I can have multiple years here. Because I kind of want to keep this. I think it's good to do like a year in review, but I think it'd be kind of cool to track multiple years on the same page just to see how I'm doing, especially because I'm so heavy into fantasy, to see how I broaden my reading. Okay. All right. So now we have book reviews. Now I will say for my covers, a lot of these came from the Adobe. I had like a free month of Adobe and was able to use a lot of this clip art for free. I don't know how much a monthly subscription is, so you can use it for personal use. I think this came from Wrong though. And then this is my book reviews. So I think I've already showed it. I'm just using a Happy Planner horizontal layout that I had laying around. I love it. I think this is perfect. I don't need to write a lot. You'll see what I do for the series, but I don't need to write a lot. So yeah, for these, I just kind of wrote little short kind of things. And you can see for Zodiac Academy, I wrote love, love, love. Easy read that has it all. Suspense, mystery, love, and supernaturals. And I wrote, I may like the airs. So I don't know. I might have to make a note for my favorite book of April. Because this, thinking back, I think I was tainted by the later books when I chose my favorite book. My book series keeps getting better. So I'm not going to go over Zodiac Academy yet, and you'll see why. For Daisy Jones, I'm gonna just give a brief description without any spoilers. This is pretty much my take on the book and how I felt reading it, not really summaries. But Daisy Jones and the Six, I kind of listened to this because of all the hype, and I will say I'm glad I listened versus read. If I would have read it, this would have been a did not finish book. I can guarantee it. Listening was a little bit more interesting, and plus because I was multitasking, it definitely kept it interesting. And the audiobook, they do change, so each character has its own like narrator, which was nice, and it kind of helped me keep things in my brain of who was talking and stuff. So I wrote interesting, but not really my type of book. I stuck with it because of the audio. The audio version is an ensemble, which makes it easier to follow. If I wasn't working in the yard, may not have finished it. Hey. All right. And then I'm glad my mom died. I was like, wow, such a good book. The audio version was excellent. It was a tough topic, but the way it was written and read made it easier to digest. And I pretty much said it's like the life of a child actor, and there is like a big kind of focus on like eating disorder too, so that could be a trigger warning. But just the way it was written and the way it was narrated did make it easier to digest and to understand. So that is why I rated that one so high. We have another Zodiac Academy, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I wrote good from the beginning to the end, love the characters, and I did like the narration of the audio, but then I wrote, I think I prefer to read the rest instead of audio. Although I will say with these fantasy books with the names and trying to pronounce the names, audio is so much easier because I know I'm changing the pronunciation in my head every chapter. And then I did write a quote. Some of these I do have quotes for, like Zodiac Academy. Some of them I wrote quotes. And then some of them I don't. But like this one I wrote a quote that says like, don't feel bad for one moment about doing what brings you joy. And then the next one was, we need hope or else we cannot endure. All right, and then we have inheritance games. I will get through that a little bit later. Finley Donovan is killing it. I mean, to pretty much sum it up, it's such a fun read. That's what it was. It was a very fun read. It was an easy read, but it was fun. And after reading all these fantasy books that were a lot more intense, fun was a great break from everything. It was like my first fun book. So that's was one of the things. I am going to read the rest of them, but this is definitely like, there's a series, but I feel like you can read them whenever you want. So you don't have to read them back to back to back. Like I do feel like some other books you do, so you can kind of remember what happened. But this one, I feel like they're almost standalone. I'm sure there's gonna be references to the first book. And then Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Things. And like I said, it was a good listen, but it took me longer than normal to finish, even though it was an audiobook. It wasn't like I wanted to press play every day. So that was kind of hard. I think reading it would have been a struggle, and I probably would have been a do not finish. It was just okay. So that was kind of my thing. And then these I'm not going to get into, and you'll see why a little bit later, but I love them all. So these are the remaining two books of the Inheritance Games, and then these two are, they're considered the queen of, oh my gosh, y'all are gonna make me say it, Nyaxia series, and you'll see why. All right, guys, I'm gonna do a voiceover because I need to get through these pretty quickly so we're not here all day. So for my longer series, I am devoting actual spreads to them where I can decorate them and kind of give my thoughts about the entire series in general. I kind of like this idea, and it's also fun to decorate. So Zodiac Academy is the first one, and I used stickers from Wrong Wrong Zodiac Pack, which was perfect. I also used washi tape to make the boxes and washi to reinforce the spine and also to cover the pattern that was on the spine. And the washi has all got stars on it, so it's still keeping that Zodiac theme. Okay. I'm not really going to get into the synopsis. The general overview is you have two twin sisters, Darcy and Tori. They grew up in the mortal world. They found out shortly after their 18th birthday that they were princesses, and if they complete the Zodiac Academy, then they will earn this inheritance as well as the throne. They're not really interested early on in the throne. They're more interested in the inheritance because they're very poor and had a hard upbringing. Their kind of battles early on is with these four gentlemen called the heirs. The heirs are the sons of the current council, which is kind of controlling Solaria. So they're kind of at odds because the two sisters are a threat to, I guess, the kingdom, because the heirs have been training their entire life to rule Solaria, and now these two princesses show up who are the rightful heirs to the throne. So that's kind of the general gist of the story. Everybody has some sort of elemental magic, so that's interesting in there. They all have orders, so they're all kind of like shapeshifters. So you have dragons and Pegasus and vampires, so it's a lot of fun. And it's very, very spicy. This is not a young adult book. This is a very, very spicy book. Probably a spice level of 4 to 5 if you're going from a scale of 1 to 5. Just putting that out there. All right, my overall view, books 1 to 2, great. fast paced. It was easy to understand this new world because that kind of went slow as the two twins learned about the world. That's how we learned about it. So it's easier to digest. So absolutely loved it. As the books start going on, it starts, a lot more filler starts adding, especially after book 4. So there are a lot of chapters that I felt you could skip altogether. And a lot of that has to do with the author adding a lot of these extra characters' points of view. So throughout the book, you typically get 2 main points of view, one of Darcy and one of Tori, and they kind of flip-flop. So one chapter is Darcy, one chapter is Tori, and that's great. But then you just started adding from all these random characters who may be main characters, but they are not essential to the main storyline, and they intertwine their points of view when something big is happening and there's nothing big going on with these characters. So it completely interrupts the story. So did not like that, and that almost ruined it for me. The 8th book was 1,200 pages, and it could have easily been 600. That's how much filler I felt was in the book. The other disappointment was the Shadow Beast. I can't get into it because it's a spoiler, but I really didn't like the Shadow Beast. And then when I found out who the Shadow Beast was, I'm like, are you serious? Come on. We didn't need that. So yeah. And I will say, I love Darius. He's one of the heirs. I do like Tori. Did not really like Darcy. Don't know why. Wasn't a fan of Darcy. I did like Geraldine. She's like one of the extra characters, but she adds some comedic relief in there. And I also kind of liked Caleb, who's another heir. He was like one of the nicer heirs early on. He was the vampire. Darius was like the mean heir, but you know, he kind of changes. So yeah. All right. So that's Zodiac Academy. That was a lot. I want to go fast. All right, so now I'm actually going to go ahead and put some spreads together for the next 2 series. And I'm going to start with the Inheritance Games. So the Inheritance Games, I would say it's a young adult mystery. So there's like no spice, if that's your thing. But yeah, I thought it was good. I don't know if I would have rated it as high if I wasn't reading it in between reading Zodiac Academy, if that makes any sense. I felt like I was kind of on Zodiac Academy overload. So when I read the Inheritance Games, it was kind of almost like a breath of fresh air, which might have made me rate it higher. It's a good book, don't get me wrong. It's very simplistic. Book 1 was good. It was refreshing. It was new. Books 2 and 3 continued the story, but I guess it was the same old, which kind of got stale. So the general synopsis is you have 17-year-old Avery. She is like summoned to Texas because this multi-billionaire, Mr. Hawthorne, names her in his will. And when they go to the will reading, they find out that he has left everything to her. And Mr. Hawthorne had 2 daughters and 4 grandsons, and it was assumed that the grandsons would get the inheritance. So when Avery got this inheritance and no one knew who she was, it was like, okay, what is going on right now? So, you know, Mr. Hawthorne and his grandsons, they were really big into like these puzzles and riddles. He would kind of create these games for them to play, so that way they can kind of figure out and use their brain to kind of figure out how to get through them. So once he passed away, he created some additional riddles and stuff, so that way they can kind of figure out who Avery is and how she got her inheritance. And there are some other reasons too that I can't really say because it will be a spoiler. So basically, Avery and the grandsons kind of embark on this quote-unquote adventure to figure out the secrets of Mr. Hawthorne and why he gave his inheritance to Avery. And I guess another major plot point, which I should mention, is that Avery has to live in the Hawthorne house for a year before she can actually get her inheritance. So I kind of already gave my general review, but what I will say, I had some issues connecting with Avery, and I'm not sure why. She didn't annoy me. I didn't dislike her. I just really didn't feel anything. Like, I just couldn't care. Like, I wasn't feeling one way or another about her getting the inheritance or succeeding or anything like that. On the other hand, I did feel a connection with the grandsons. And it's kind of interesting because I felt like we did get a decent amount of backstory for Avery. I mean, not too much. It wasn't overwhelming backstory, but we had to get some to kind of understand some stuff. And it still didn't make me connect with the character. But the grandsons, I felt like there were parts in the books where each of them showed some vulnerability, and that might have helped me connect with them. So yeah, I just found that interesting. And of course, my favorite characters were two of the grandsons, Jameson and Xander, and they were pretty much the two that were probably a large part of the story. One of them, Grayson, was also a large part of the story, but I felt like we've heard more about Jameson and Xander more, especially getting into all the riddles and games that they were trying to play to find out the secrets. And then there's a fourth one, Nash, and he wasn't really in there that much. All right. My overall rating, I'll keep it at a 4. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So now we're going to get to Crowns of Nyaxia. And this is the Night-born duet, which consists of The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This was my 5-star read, guys. So I absolutely loved it. I'm not even sure that I can give a synopsis. I'll give a synopsis of the first book. I cannot give a synopsis of the second book because it will be a spoiler to the first book. So the main character is Aurea. She is human, but she was adopted, I guess you can put adopted in quotes, by the Vampire King when she was young. And he took her in and he trained her to fight in the Kajari. And the Kajari, you can think of that more like a Hunger Games type thing, where all these vampires come in to fight to the death, and the winner gets a wish granted by the goddess. So he's been training her for this, and she's human, and she's the only human competing in this event. So she's competing in the event, and with all these bloodthirsty vampires, plus all these obstacles that she has to conquer in the events. And within the events, sometimes you have to get some allies, and that's kind of where the other main character comes in, and his name is Rain, and he's described as this beautiful, tall, reddish, long reddish brown hair, hunk of a man. So this is a slow burn romance, and I will actually say the second book kind of ends up being a slow burn romance too. So that's kind of the general synopsis of the first book, and like I said, I can't get into the second book because it would provide spoilers. So good. Such a good book. Book 1, the ending, oh my gosh. I mean, to me, that ending, I don't know the last book that I read where my jaw dropped after reading the ending. It was so, so good. So good that this is the book that I might buy a physical copy of just to have it so I can reread it. Yes. In addition, fantasy books can sometimes be difficult because you do have world building. They have to explain the world that you're in. They have to explain all the characters. There's just a lot of learning that you have to do in these fantasy books. And there was a lot of that in here, but I still felt like it was an easy read. So that is a plus. There are a lot of twists and turns, which kind of keeps you going. And what I will say is I loved all the characters. I felt a connection to all of the characters, and that is the big thing. And I actually like the way this book is written, so I'm gonna try to follow this author and read some of her other series. So yeah, I definitely recommend this book and this series. All right, guys, there you have it. That is my reading wrap up for April and May. It was quite a bit of books that I read. I do not think my future videos will be as long. I will try to stay on top of this and maybe do 1 month reading wrap ups instead of 2. I was not anticipating reading that many books, and because there were a lot of series, there was kind of a lot to go into. But I really do hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know if you enjoyed this kind of content. I am trying to add different types of stuff to my channel. I do track different types of things, and I like to show you all that stuff. So be sure to let me know, and also let me know if there's any series or anything that I need to check out. Like I said, I am kind of drawn more to that fantasy type world, but I do enjoy other types of books as well. So let me know what you're reading and if I should check it out. All right, so if you are not already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel, and I want to give a big thank you to all of my current subscribers. All right, so that is all I have for now. Thank you again for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.